If you enjoy what we do, please support the channel by giving the video a like. Have you ever heard about the music industry in Korea? South Korea, to be more accurate. More likely, I'm sure you've heard of the increasingly popular music genre K-pop, or Korean pop, and the subsequent insane fandom that comes with it. I've been in a popular K-pop group for a few years. For the sake of privacy, I'll call myself Jin. No relation to the Jin from BTS, another popular K-pop group. I'm writing this as a warning to not only to others in our industry, but also as a warning to the fans and to those who dream of becoming a K-pop idol. Idol is another word for celebrity here. Thinking about it now, I don't think idol is a healthy title for us. We aren't. This is encouraging worship in the worst way possible. Trust me, I would know. And that's where I'll begin my story. When I was growing up, I watched many people come up in the K-pop world. They had amazing lives, and I wanted it. I never thought that I'd ever get the chance, but when I got the opportunity to audition for a huge company in Seoul, I took it. I begged my mother and father for a whole year to take me from my small province to the big city and try out for my dream. It would take 5 auditions and 2 years before I was accepted at the age of 13. I had heard many stories about the hard lives of K-pop trainees. There's a running joke calling the contracts you sign slave contracts. But it didn't deter my grind. I was ready for anything. I had no idea what horrors awaited me in the next 7 years. To better understand my story, you need to understand how the K-pop industry is designed and how our culture directly affects it. In SK, if you have talent, you're a dime a dozen as literally thousands of people attempt to snag a place at one of the prestigious K-pop companies every year from all across the globe, even the USA and Canada. Barring extraordinary circumstances, if you get accepted by a company after auditions, you become a trainee. It's basically K-pop boot camp to get you in shape to form a whole group and start making money. Yes, boy and girl bands are still alive and well here. Trainees can be molded anywhere from 6 months to 5 or 6 years. Now, my trainee life was simple and difficult. Every day, all day, I would train to be a pop star with 10 other kids my age. Some a little older, some even younger. It was hard. From sunup to sundown, we trained in all things you could think of: singing, dancing, rapping, language, etc. But this life was the life I chose and wanted. I could write a whole horror story on just my trainee life, but this story's subject is about the life after I debuted in a group. The life that I always thought would be a dream come true. The life full of traveling the world, singing, dancing, money, and the fans. The love of the fans. That was what I was most excited about. I wanted it so bad. The unconditional love of millions of people, wearing my face on their shirts, phone cases, screaming my name and crying when they got to meet me. Who wouldn't want that? Being worshipped. 2 years after my other members and I became a legitimate group, I was bathing in the things I always wanted. It was amazing, but it came with a cost. In South Korea and the K-pop world, we have different levels of fans. We have the normal fans who always support us, come to our concerts, buy our music, vote in our music shows, get our views up on YouTube, spend all of their money on us, etc. We love them and they love us. The second type are what we call netizens. These people are internet citizens, and you may recognize this category as netizens are mostly in every fandom. That being said, they can be wonderful if they are happy with our choices, but when they believe we do something wrong, even if it's as minor as looking at someone the wrong way, they can be vicious. We're always terrified of our actions as we fear the repercussions of these fans, but we live with it. It comes with the territory. Now, the third level of fan, here we call them Sasaengs. The Korean word Sasaeng is a shorter form of the Korean word Sasaengwal, which literally means privacy or private life. I can honestly say I do not understand this level of obsession. I heard rumors that they existed, but I never thought I'd ever have an encounter. I was wrong. These fans stalk us and invade our privacy, Us bigger groups or singers have at least 100 of full-time Sasaeng fans around us at all times. They try to rip off our clothes, kiss, molest, and rape us. They steal our private property, and they have even broken into our dorms and hotels and planted cameras to watch us. They sometimes steal our boxers and sell them online. I even had a seemingly normal fan at a meet and greet place a camera in a stuffed animal she gave me. Thank God our security thoroughly checked our gifts before allowing us to have them. I remember a few years ago hearing about a set of girls who had hit a few female idols with a bag full of rocks outside a venue when they were signing autographs. They were in the hospital for days after. I've even heard of these fans slipping drugs and poisonous substances into food and drink of the idols, making them sick. One even died after unwittingly consuming cyanide placed into a room service meal in Japan. That was a few years ago. Security has been upped since then and many times after, but they still get smarter about their dealings every year, and it's caused us to be wary of every fan we meet. The fans suffer the most for these egregious crimes against us in the name of love. I'm not saying these types of fans are exclusive to Korea and our industry, but when you mix these unstable personalities the way our company markets us and our cultural practices, you get a volatile cocktail that somehow seems to eclipse all other extremists out there. They will do anything to make us remember them, anything to get our attention, anything to get to us. It's been said that they hire full-time taxi services to follow us around 24/7. This can get expensive, as you may know. Disgusting as the thought is, to fund their obsession, they have even sold their bodies for sex when they can't get the money to do this anywhere else. It's a sick life I don't understand. We've also heard rumors that they have even killed just to get the chance to touch us. But this has never been confirmed. We've all had the fear of God put into us by these rumblings and experiences of these fans. Honestly, I don't think they have the right to be called fans, but the fear and the precautions were not enough to prevent the events that were to come. Not only do we suffer at the hands of these people, we also have immense tribulation that's sourced from our own company. Even though many of us have had horrible experiences regarding the dark side of our fandom and have ample evidence of these crimes, our companies will do nothing to punish them. No legal action whatsoever. Why? Because they refuse to injure any source of income, even from these psychopaths. The people we entrust our lives to, the ones that are supposed to protect us, they value money over our safety and well-being. They are just as much to blame. They can be cruel in every sense of the word. For example, in our world, we are not allowed to date anyone. Not publicly, not in private either as forbidden by our companies, but we find ways around it, even though it's in our contracts. We have little to no social life. Some companies will stipulate in said contracts that we can date 5 years after we debut, but unfortunately, that's rare. Regardless, like I said, we find ways around it. We have to be stealthy about it. But sometimes that doesn't always work, as you'll find out. The companies forbid it because they want the fans to have a false sense of hope. They want them to have the illusion of access. They want them to think we are available and that they actually have any chance of being with us. Sick, right? But the companies think it helps them make more money. It's even been proven as true by the money they've lost by dating scandals. If we're ousted as being with someone, the fans get angry. They almost feel like we cheated on them. They shame us, but the one who suffers the most is person we're in the relationship with. 2 years ago, I had met a girl who worked at my company. She was the assistant to our debut stylist. I'll call her G. She was quiet and she didn't seem like she belonged in this hectic life we live. I barely even noticed her at first, until a few months after we debuted, when she graduated to becoming one of our full-time stylists. For months, she seemed to just blend into the colorful chaos that was our life. But one day I saw her. Really saw her. G was beautiful. Honestly, the most beautiful girl I had ever laid eyes on. And that's saying something, considering I had been around the likes of gorgeous female idols for years. G was different. She didn't have to wear expensive clothes or pounds of makeup to sparkle among every other girl in the room. I began talking to her, and it took a year, but I finally got a date with her. She was opposed to it for the longest time because of our contracts, But the connection was undeniable. A piece of paper couldn't hold us back. Months of stealthy, shadowed dates, clandestine meetings, and stolen glances later. We were in love. The cover of her job helped ease the pain of having to be hidden from the public and corporate eye. My other members knew, but they had their own undercover lovers to deal with and encouraged me when we fought about stresses over our secret. My fans thought I was single, and that's the way it had to be. We adapted and were together as much as we could be. Every second was precious. Seconds that normal couples would take for granted. I loved her, I truly did. I wanted no one else. She saw me, really saw me through the idle exterior I had to wear constantly. We traveled the world together on tour, and she followed me to the ends of the earth. I thought one day, once we got older and when the contracts were renegotiated, we could go public. We could get married, have children. Oh, how I wanted children with G. She would have made a wonderful mother. In the spring of last year, G and I had become comfortable with our routine, maybe a bit overly confident that we would never be found out. Cocky even. It happens when you get away with a lie for so long. You feel invincible and infallible in your life of secrecy. We never thought that cool morning in March would be the end of our carefully constructed house of lies. G and I awoke in the small, private music studio I had rented as a cover for our rendezvous to a loud and eager pounding on the door. We both jumped up in a panic, not sure what was happening. I got dressed quickly as she hid under the bed. It was second nature to hide her at this point. I staggered to the door, ready with at least 10 different excuses for any situation I would be met with to protect her, to protect us. We weren't amateurs. I opened the door blearily, and I was met by two men from upper management in our company. I sighed deeply as I saw the anger protruding from their expressions. I knew we had been found out. The next few weeks were a blur of public relation meetings and threats from our company. Someone had seen us and taken pictures. It took just one person to make this all crash down. It went viral by morning, and soon after, the whole community knew. The fans knew. They felt betrayed and angry. Soon our entire relationship was under the microscope, and even though we were so careful to hide our love, the details of our private life were leaked. The fans, industry, our company, they all knew how long we'd been together and what we'd been doing. They knew everything, no matter how much we denied and fought it. It was over. I was threatened with lawsuits and breach of contract. She was unceremoniously fired, and she was forbidden to see me ever again. We were both heartbroken for weeks. She was everything to me, and I would have given up all of this to be with her. Even my career I had spent years working on to achieve. But my company rules with an iron fist. You may be asking, why didn't you just walk away? Leave. I had worked my ass off for 7 long years to be where I was at the time, but even then, I still considered giving it all up for her. She was worth it, even though I cherished my career despite the hell I had to endure. However, in most situations you hear about, things are sometimes easier said than done. Like when you scream at a person to stop being stupid by running up the stairs in a horror movie instead of just running outside. You think you'd know better and make better, life-saving decisions. But do you really think you would? No one knows exactly how they would react or what would motivate your choices. Our culture is different than most, a culture that puts more emphasis on morality and respect. I respected my company and was raised to follow through with my promises. Be a man, especially if these promises took legal form in a contract. A few weeks after the scandal broke, my brothers in my group and my family had rallied around me and prevented any further legal action from being brought against me and G. They even helped us to see each other a few times. I really and truly thought we could weather this and come out of it together. More in love than ever. I never thought that my life would turn into what it is today. It was the end of September when I stopped receiving texts and phone calls from G. We had bought burner phones to speak when we could. I tried feverishly to contact her, but her phone was off. I thought maybe she had changed her mind. Maybe this became too much. Maybe she needed some space. Maybe my company had found out how we communicated and was able to break that lifeline again. She had been forced to move back 5 hours away from Seoul after she was fired to live with her family. She didn't want to leave, but she had no choice. Not only had the company blackballed her at every company in Korea, but they also accompanied said threats with legal repercussions. They threatened her enough that she was scared to stay, and with no income, she couldn't afford to continue to live in the city. The fans were not making it easy for her either. She was being berated by horrendous insults every street she walked on. They stalked her and made her life a living hell. My poor G. She never asked for this. I was able to hide behind my company and be protected, but she was thrown to the wolves. I blame myself for not walking away with her, for being too scared to do so. After a week of silence and no way to contact her family, I thought she had left me, that it was over. I thought my company had finally gotten rid of her for good. I was a mess, and I had no idea how to go about getting her back. I thought maybe it was for the best at times. She could live a normal life now and have a regular relationship where she didn't have to hide and she didn't have to share him with millions of other girls on a daily basis. I didn't leave my room for days. I could barely eat or even will myself to take a shower. I consistently asked my company if they could reach her. Just make sure she was okay. I even pleaded with them to let me see her one more time and say goodbye, but it fell on deaf ears. Eventually, I scoured the internet to find anyone related to her. I only had a few surnames and locations to go on. Luckily, I didn't have to search social networking sites for long. I found one of her younger cousins that she grew up with. I used a fake name and account to contact him, of course. I didn't want to risk this becoming another scandal. I told him I was one of her friends and coworker from Seoul, and I was wondering how she was after everything that occurred, but that I had no way to reach her. I threw in a few personal details only someone whom was close with her would know, just to assure him that I was indeed a legitimate friend and not a netizen trying to find G. I politely thanked him for speaking with me and extending my invitation to speak with G when she became available. I thought on this information for a few days. I somehow came to the conclusion that my company had something to do with this. They always did. G did not come from a wealthy family by any means. She was the sole breadwinner for her family in her home province. She made just enough to support her simple lifestyle and take care of her family. I knew that flights and a trip to America would be out of her financial reach at this point in her life. So naturally, I began to suspect that they had paid her to leave the country and cut off all communication with me. Probably another tactic to keep me in a cage and prevent more scandals that would cause the company more monetary decline. You have no idea the lengths they will go to secure their investments. We are a lucrative commodity, and they refuse to put that in jeopardy over a girl. I confronted them in a rage demanding answers countless times, but I never did get a denial or confirmation of my suspicions and accusations. Either way, they benefited from her supposed sudden exodus from South Korea. Eventually, I threw in the towel and tried to accept that I may never see her again, and I had my company to blame every inch of the way. But I had no other choice but to move on. October came and went with no news of G. I kept my sanity by imagining she was living the life she always wanted in the States, or even Paris. We talked a lot about what we would do once I was let out of my contract. That's what kept me together those nights where all I had were my worst nightmares of betrayal to keep me company. Life went on around me in slow motion. Soon I was so caught up in recording our new album and performing our tour that I almost never got the opportunity to dwell or be angry. 2 weeks before my birthday, the end of November, I started to receive my yearly birthday gifts from fans. I always look forward to this. Our fans were wonderful. They would get the most unique gifts for us for our birthdays. Expensive, homemade, creative. Of course, with the ever-growing concern of the Sasaengs, our presents were monitored and checked before they were given to us. Every day that I would come back home to the dorm, I would have a new pile of packages set up on my bed, placed there by our staff. The other members always loved to come in while I opened them and call dibs on candy I didn't want. We did this every night for 2 weeks. The night before my birthday, I was excited. I knew I'd get the biggest and best presents the next day. Even so, I thought of G from time to time. Like I said, G was never rich by any means, but the presents she snuck to me every year were always my favorites. I remember running my fingers over the bracelet she had gotten me our first year together, over and over until I fell asleep, hoping maybe I would still get a present from her this year. I thought that maybe it would come in the form of an email or text message, even a phone call, just to know where she was and make sure she was happy. I wanted to apologize for what my company did and tell her that I don't blame her for taking the money. Anyone in their right mind would, even with love on the table. I thought that I may just have the chance to tell her these things I'd rehearsed in my mind for months following her departure. I woke up to my members and staff bringing me a huge breakfast in bed. The day consisted of a few appearances and a filmed adventure to water park that we would upload to YouTube later on. We had a live broadcast of my cake ceremony and got into an icing fight. We returned back to the dorm and I ran into my room expecting to see all of the best packages of presents to open. I was not disappointed when I turned the lights on and saw stacks and stacks of boxes to open everywhere. Like always, as soon as I sat down to begin, a few of my brothers came piling in to claim the unwanted candies and things I knew I'd never eat. We gathered around talking about the day and laughing as we were on a sugar high. By the 10th present, I was already exhausted. I had quite a few left to open and was moaning that I wanted to finish in the morning. They were disappointed, but I had finally convinced them to leave me be to rest. As we were picking up the tattered remnants of wrapping paper and boxes, one of my members came to the door with a box. It wasn't very big, and it was just a plain brown shipping box that most all of the fans' presents were delivered in. I asked him what it was, and he chuckled, tossing it to me, saying he didn't go around opening other people's birthday presents like some kind of monster. He told me that he had gone into the kitchen for a glass of water and found it sitting on the dining room table. We thought maybe the staff had forgotten to place it with the others. We examined it, and it was, of course, shipped to me. It read, "To Jin Love, your biggest fans, happiest of birthdays, and we love you more than life itself. You love us too, right?" In Korean, of course. I took the box and shook it. It was a bit heavy, but I had a weird feeling that this box was unusual. Why? Because it didn't look like it had been opened yet. The staff always opened the boxes first before giving it to us for safety reasons. Some of the newer staff would sometimes retape the boxes, just so it would feel like I was the first to open it on my birthday. It was nice of them to give the illusion of a surprise. So I thought nothing of it. None of us did. I decided to put it with the others, and I kicked the rest of my mates out for the night. After eating the candy I wanted and taking a few pictures with my gifts to put on social media as a thank you to my fans, I got into bed. I lay there in the dark thinking about the day with contentment. Slowly, as always, G crept into my mind. I must have laid there for hours debating on whether or not I wanted to get up and finish opening my presents, reasoning that perhaps there was a present from her in the pile of unopened presents. I couldn't wait until morning, so I got up, turned on my lamp, and sat on the floor. I began opening the rest of my boxes. One by one, my excitement waned as I realized each present was not from her. I was happy with gifts from fans, but of course, I was disappointed. An hour later, I only had one box left, the box that was found on our kitchen table. I sighed as I pulled it towards me, sitting in a ring of shredded boxes and hopes. I took the box opener and slowly cut the thick layers of masking tape that covered the entire box. My heart pounded in my chest as I thought, it's the last one more chance for G to wish my happy birthday, to know she okay and still loved me. As soon as I cut through the last layer and began to open the lips of the box, I was hit by a stench I will never forget. I coughed and gagged at the putrid smell emanating from the contents of the package. I gasped for air and fell backwards on my elbows. My loud calamity had woken up my member in the room across from me, and he sleepily opened my door, asking if I was okay. I looked at him for a moment, trying to hold in a belly laugh, before his nose was assaulted by the smell of rotting meat. He covered his nose and coughed as he waved he hands frantically in front of his face. I enjoyed a right good laugh, watching him struggle with his senses that betrayed him. After a few minutes of debate, We reasoned that maybe it was some food that a fan made, and perhaps it had spoiled on its journey to us. It wouldn't be the first time. Just last year, one of friends got a box full of his favorite potted meat from fans. The staff left it as a joke, and our dorm smelled for weeks. He thought it was strange that the staff would give it to me if it was rotten, but I didn't want to disappoint my fans. If they had gone through all of that trouble, the least I could do was retrieve the card and place it with the others. I prided myself on sending thank you notes to all of the senders every year. That was just the kind of guy I was. With our noses being pinched by our fingers, we sat back down around the package and braced for a plate full of rotting food. I only needed to get the card, and then we could take it to the trash. We were being very dramatic about it, to be honest. We counted to 3 and quickly opened the box the rest of the way. We peered into the box. For a few moments, we both stared at the contents, not knowing exactly what we were looking at. The odor was burning my eyes so badly that they were tearing. I wiped away the blur from my vision as I looked closer. All I could see was a mass of what looked like purple and black mush. Swirls of white and yellow mixed into the slush of liquid surrounding 3 masses laying in a container at the bottom of the box. All at once, I heard my mate scream bloody murder as he jumped back and began to heave in the corner of the room. My brain misfired, and all I could do was stare into the darkness. I began to shake violently as I finally came to the disgusting realization at what I was looking at. A human, rotting hand, a foot, and what looked like a pound of human flesh piled in the corner. I only learned later that it was a severed scalp that had been crudely shaved short prior to its detachment from the head. All I could do was keep my eyes fixated on it. My body was frozen. My lips were dry. My lungs wouldn't inhale or exhale. Tears ran down my face. My heartbeat was erratic and fast. My convulsions were becoming more and more extreme by the second as I kept my eyes on the only thing that was recognizable. A small silver ring on the finger surrounded by bloating flesh and exposed bone. All of the candy I had consumed immediately turned to bile and worked its way up my throat. I don't know how long I was sitting there in a statue state accompanying my silent meltdown. I couldn't move until I felt hands all over my body pulling me back away from the box. After a moment of looking up at my group surrounding me, I let out a blood-curdling, guttural scream and blacked out. At least that's how the story goes according to those who witnessed this, as I don't remember much, save for the sight of human body parts that are forever burned into my memory. I woke up in the living room with police, my members and staff scattered around the room. My manager was sitting next to me looking at me with tears in her eyes. She held my hand gently and spoke to me in a soft voice. I have no idea what she said to me. All I could do was be silent and look at my surroundings. The voices that mumbled around me went quiet as everyone acknowledged that I came to. They all looked at me with concerned faces. The next few hours are sketchy in my memory. All I remember is being questioned by police on what was in the box and who sent it. I didn't know, or rather, my mind didn't let me know, for it was too traumatic to recover at the time. We were placed in a hotel down the street for a few days as the investigation was ongoing. Even so, our schedules were not altered to allow for time to digest the events. I wasn't surprised. Our company doesn't even allow us leave when we're injured, much less a traumatic event. Eventually, I was told that the body parts found in the box belonged to G. They didn't have to tell me this, as I already knew this to be true. I recognized the ring on the rotting hand. Every day after the first package arrived, more were delivered. These contained the rest of her head being the last, all from different locations and provinces, all sent to me from my biggest fans. They never did find out who sent it or how the first box wound up in our dorm with no one noticing. All they could tell me and her family was that the body looked to have been severely abused for months before she was murdered and dismembered. It was said that she was probably taken the day her family thought she left for America and was in captivity, being tortured endlessly until they decided to kill her and ship her remains to me. They don't know if she was still alive when they began to saw her up. Honestly, I think they were trying to spare us the details. I like to think she was already deceased. I have to believe that. My poor G, the love of my life. Theories go that it was Sasaengs who kidnapped her and tortured her, then killed her and sent me her body as a birthday present. They came to this conclusion by the note on the box, "From your biggest fans." But this was never fully confirmed. Maybe they used my fame as a cover for the murder. No one knows. But I believe it. I can't even get my mind around the other theories, like that my company arranged this to make sure she would cause no more problems with their cash cow. That is beyond my mental capacity to accept. But it's not beyond the realm of possibility. Love makes people do crazy things. Love of a celebrity and the insanity that comes with it can cause people to go mad. Love of money can cause people to make decisions they would normally never consider. I don't think I cried once. Not after the first night. I couldn't. I was numb. I still am. That may have something to do with the medications I was given by our staff physicians to help with the anxiety. I've been forced to continue taking them to this day. I think about her every day, her smile, her voice, the last text message from her. "We'll be together. They will accept us eventually. I love you, Jen. See you soon." After the case went cold, they returned G's belongings that were found on her body to her family. They gave me the ring that was still on her left hand. The couple's ring I had given to her a month before we were exposed. The one thing I recognized in the mass of flesh and bone waiting at the bottom of the box. I keep it in my nightstand with mine, but I never look at it. I can't. Not without my mind recalling that sight on that night, rather than the happiness that should be connected with it. They never did run any news stories about her. I have a suspicion that my company paid off enough people to keep it quiet. I threatened many times to quit and disappear. I wanted no part of this life anymore. It stole and brutally destroyed the one person that I ever loved. I couldn't look at any of my fans anymore. Not without thinking in the back of my mind, were you the one that killed her? Was it you? Did you hack her body up and send it to me? It became a big enough issue that my company sent me away to psychiatric facility for a month under the guise of working on my solo career. They refused to let me out of my contract, but as you have probably come to understand, this is no surprise. They threatened me with everything from my family and friends to my finances and legal recourse. They threatened my group members to the point where I agreed to do what they wanted. My actions would never hurt anyone ever again. I make sure of this by no longer rocking the proverbial boat, which brings us to now. I'm sitting here in a small, custodial closet in our company's building, typing this with only the glow from the screen lighting my surroundings. Hiding from them, my wardens, my tormentors. I'm just a shell of who I used to be. I record my music, I dance, I smile, I do meet and greets, I do my job. My company makes sure of that. So if you see an idol or celebrity on stage or wherever and they're smiling and appear happy as can be, make sure to pause a moment. Really look at them and think about the journey they had to go on to get there. What secrets their company has hidden to make it so. The lives that have been ruined in the name of money and greed. The time and money you've spent on them, not realizing you only continue to feed the machine, therefore only making the industry tighten their chokehold on us. The ever-present monsters that lurk beyond your view waiting for them and those they will eliminate to reach their goal. The suffering. Ask yourself, do they really want to be here? Or are they trapped? What have they given up, lost? What's be taken from them? What secrets have been carefully woven to give you a false sense of access, entertainment, pleasure, and sovereignty over every aspect of their life? Then shake it off and forget about it, because you don't really care, do you?